The land was dust and bone that year, a barren spread between the hill's ridge and the shadowed creeks where cattle sometimes limped to die. June had come with no promise of rain. Heat rattled through the parched cottonwoods. Crows watched everything from crooked fences, always knowing. Clayton Ridge stood outside his ranch house with his hat tipped forward, arms crossed, boots buried in dry soil. He was the richest man in 3 counties, owned more land than the government could chart, and didn't answer to anybody except the ghosts he never spoke of. He was 41, hadn't married, never claimed kin. Most folks figured that was by design. At his back stretched Ridge Hollow, a spread of black-streaked hills and lean pasture grass, gold when the sun sank behind them. The place was quiet this morning, though the bunkhouse was already stirring. Hired hands lit cookfires, their spurs clinking, laughter sharp in the thin air. He paid them well, not to ask questions. The girl came up the drive like trouble cloaked in silence. She was young, maybe 17, maybe 20, too thin. Dust on her dress, shawl pulled tight. She moved like someone afraid to be seen but too desperate to care. Her eyes, he'd never forget them, held something old and hollow. Clayton didn't know her, not by name. He didn't say anything at first, just watched as she walked up to the edge of the veranda, hands white-knuckled at her sides. Her hair was pinned but loose at the temples, face sharp with windburn and hunger. She didn't look like any of the saloon girls from town. She looked like she belonged to the earth, like someone God had forgotten to finish carving. Her voice broke the morning open. "It's your baby, sir." Clayton froze. A barn swallow cut through the sky. Somewhere a horse kicked against a stall. He looked at her the way men do when they're trying to see through a thing, not at it, trying to bend it into something else. His mouth stayed shut, his fists curled near his belt. The girl's gaze didn't waver. He said nothing. Then she opened her shawl and revealed the bundle strapped against her chest. Wrapped tight in pale flannel, the infant didn't cry. It slept. Peaceful, small, she shifted to show more, and the light caught a bruise that curved along her jawline. It wasn't old. A few days at most. His voice was low, dangerous. "What's your name?" Her chin rose. "Mercy." "Mercy what?" "No more of that," she said. "Don't matter." Clayton studied the child, then her again. His jaw tightened. "I don't know you." "I know." She looked past him to the porch, to the door he hadn't opened in years. "But you knew my sister, Clara, a few years back. She worked up at Bell in Sutterville." The name hit him like a rusted nail. He took a step back, boots creaking. "She died last spring," Mercy said. "Throat infection, doctor said. Didn't have money for proper care. I buried her myself." The child stirred but didn't wake. Clayton's throat went dry. "She said if anything ever happened," Mercy continued, quieter now, "I was to bring the baby here, to you." He couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. She looked down at the child as if its warmth was the only anchor she had left in this world. "He's yours, sir. You can pretend otherwise, but I saw the letters she kept. The money, your name was on it." Clayton had not moved. Could not, that was when he saw the fear in her eyes, not the kind you learn young from beatings or bad men. The kind that lives in the bones of people who have lost everything and are down to their last, trembling hope. She wasn't just giving him the child. She was giving him the only piece of her sister she had left, and she wasn't sure he'd take it. Mercy swayed slightly on her feet, the journey and the heat wearing her thin. Her lips cracked when she spoke again. "Please, I got nowhere else." He remembered Clara now, her laugh bittersweet and always distant, her way of never letting anyone too close. She'd been soft-spoken, smart, and she'd left without a word. He'd let her go, paid her to disappear, but she hadn't gone far, and now she was buried under a hill with no marker. And this girl, her sister, stood before him with nothing but a sleeping child and a broken heart. Clayton Ridge was many things, cold, hard, self-made, but something inside him broke then, not loudly, just a quiet fissure down the middle of a life built on control. "Come inside," he said. She hesitated, shoulders tense. "I won't touch you," he added. Mercy nodded. He opened the door, let her cross the threshold. And just like that, the quiet world he'd built began to crack apart. The house was colder than the wind outside. Floors polished to a shine, no pictures on the walls, not even a cross. Mercy stepped in slow, her boots scuffing soft against wood too fine for someone like her. She kept the child close to her chest and didn't sit until he told her to. Clayton shut the door behind her, latched it. The air hung thick between them, silent as a noose. He poured water into a tin cup and set it on the table near her. She didn't touch it. Just kept her arms wrapped around the infant, her back straight like she was ready to run. "I never knew about the baby," he said finally. "You knew Clara." "I didn't know she kept anything from me." Mercy's eyes went hard. "She didn't keep it, you just didn't ask." Clayton swallowed the bite behind her words. He looked at the child, small fists curled, dark hair soft as dusk. He looked like Clara, had her shape of nose, her narrow chin. "How long have you had him?" "Since Clara died, 8 months." "You nursed him." She shook her head. "Wasn't enough left in me. I bartered for milk, a neighbor's cow later. He ain't gone a day hungry, not if I could help it." He nodded, slow. Looked again at the girl before him. There was grit in her voice, even if her hands trembled. She hadn't come asking for charity. She came with a promise to be kept. Why now? Mercy looked past him, out the window toward the dying fields. "Because the sheriff's looking for me. I pulled a knife on a man in Nolan who tried to take him. Said a girl like me couldn't raise a Ridge bastard right. Said the baby belonged to better hands." "You kill him." "No," she looked down. "Not deep enough, but he'll carry the scar." Clayton crossed the room slowly. He stood by the fire now, the mantel bare, but for an old pocket watch and a horseshoe nailed upright for luck. Neither had moved in years. "You expect me to raise him." "I expect you to not let him die." The fire cracked. He rubbed a hand down his face. It was a weathered hand, calloused and dry, stained by old blood and burned rope, not the kind of hand fit for a child. But it was all there was. "What's his name?" "Asila's." Clayton nodded. It fit. He stared into the flames. He'd never once pictured himself holding a child, much less raising one. He built his wealth so he could be alone in it. But the boy slept as if he belonged here. He turned back to Mercy. "You can stay, just until I figure this." Her shoulders twitched. Relief wasn't something she'd let show, not fully, but the air in her lungs changed. "You'll need a room," he said. "I'll sleep near the kitchen." "You'll sleep in the old maid's quarters. It's clean, got a cradle. From when my mother passed through here with my sister's child. Didn't last, but the bed stayed." Mercy blinked. "You had a sister." "Had," he said, "nothing more." He opened a cupboard, pulled down a tin of oats, began sorting what would pass for supper. Mercy watched him, wary still. "You don't ask what I did," she said after a while. "I figured if it was worth knowing, you'd say." She looked at him with something like disbelief. Then, "I've lied, stolen, run, but I never sold myself, not once, even when it got dark." He didn't look at her. "Then you're ahead of most." They ate in silence. The boy stirred once, let out a soft sound like wind in wheat. Mercy soothed him with a practiced touch. She kept her eyes low the whole time, not out of shame, but memory. The kind that doesn't release you just because someone gave you a warm room. That night, Clayton stood outside the door to her quarters and listened. The baby's breath was steady. Mercy sang something low, no words, just sound. something her mother might have hummed back when things were still whole. In the dark, Clayton felt something move in him. Guilt, maybe, or memory, or something worse. He remembered Clara again, her laugh, her silence after. He remembered the way he'd paid her to leave town before the whispers started, before the church women found out about the visits to Bells. She hadn't begged, she'd just gone, and now her child lay under his roof. Small, innocent. A ridge by blood, whether he liked it or not. Sleep didn't come easy. By morning, the wind changed. Dust carried east. Vultures circled out past the cattle pens, and trouble, quiet as a prayer, began to gather on the horizon. 2 weeks passed before anyone in town spoke the girl's name aloud. Sheriff Tolliver rode up the Ridge Hollow Trail with the kind of calm men use when they already know what they're about to do. He dismounted, wiped the dust from his badge, and tipped his hat without smiling. Clayton met him halfway down the slope. No handshake, no small talk. The air between them was dry enough to crack. "She here?" the sheriff asked. "Who? You know who." Clayton looked over his shoulder toward the long porch where shadows moved behind lace curtains. "She's not your concern. She's mine when there's blood on a man's shirt," and he's swearing she near gutted him in broad daylight. Clayton crossed his arms. That man lay a hand on her. Claims she attacked without reason. Then he's lying. Tolliver frowned. "You saw it happen." "No," Clayton said, "but I seen the girl, seen her boy. She ain't had the kind of life where lies come easy. That one's had to fight for every breath." The sheriff stepped closer, his voice dropped. "Word is she's carrying your bastard, that right?" "Not a bastard if I'm raising him." That gave Tolliver pause. He spat once into the dirt, then looked past Clayton toward the house. "You sure this is what you want?" "Don't matter what I want," Clayton said. "She's under my roof now." The sheriff didn't press further. Just gave a nod and turned back toward his horse. But the tension didn't leave with him. It sank into the wood, the soil, the wind, and Mercy felt it before she ever stepped out of the house. She didn't ask about the lawman, she already knew. Instead, she stayed close to the house those next few days. Fed the baby, scrubbed the floors, learned the shape of the rooms. Her hands never stopped moving, like if she paused too long, the past would catch up and claw her back. Clayton kept his distance, but at night he heard her singing. On the third morning, Mercy asked to help with the calves. He looked at her hard. "That work's not for you. I can mend fences, too. You think I'd have a girl like you swinging wire under that sun?" She squared her shoulders. "I ain't asking permission." He didn't argue, just handed her gloves and walked away. She kept up better than most. Knew how to coax a skittish heifer, didn't flinch when blood stained her dress. The other ranch hands stared but said nothing. Mercy had a way of shutting men up just by standing still. By sundown, she was bruised, blistered, and grinning like she hadn't in weeks. That night, as the baby slept and the moon hung low, Mercy sat on the porch with her feet bare and a tin cup of water sweating in her hands. Clayton stood a few feet away, lighting a cigar he hadn't touched since the war ended. "You weren't always rich," she said, not as a question. "No." "How'd you come by it?" He exhaled slow. "Killed a man once, took his land. Then worked it until it bent." She nodded. "Makes sense." "You don't ask why." "You said enough." They sat in silence a while, both of them staring into the Black Hills. Somewhere a wolf cried out. "He used to hit Clara," Mercy said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The man before you, she didn't talk about it, but I saw the marks. You were the only one who left her without a bruise." Clayton said nothing. "She kept your letters," Mercy added. "Even the ones that only said her name. I think she loved you." His cigar burned low between his fingers. I don't deserve that kind of grace. Mercy looked at him then. None of us do. The next day, word came from town. The man she'd cut in Nolan had died. Infection. They were calling it murder now. Mercy stood at the gate with the baby on her hip when Clayton told her. She didn't cry, didn't blink. Just asked, how long do we have? Maybe days. She nodded, kissed the boy's forehead. Then we better not waste them. Inside the house, she began to pack a bag, not for escape, but for war. Clayton had once fought men on open fields where bodies stacked like timber and horses screamed louder than bullets. But nothing readied him for the look Mercy gave him that night as she laid her shawl across the crib and said, calm as rain, I'll go alone. He stood in the doorway, jaw clenched. No, you won't. They'll burn this place down if they think you're harboring me. Let them try. She tied her hair back with a strip of cloth. There was no fear in her now, only that cold, steady grit that women like her wore when death was just another room they'd already walked through. She strapped a small knife to her thigh beneath her skirt. She didn't ask for his blessing. You think I'll just let you hand yourself over, Clayton said. I don't think, she replied. I survive. The child stirred in his sleep. Mercy went to him, touched his cheek, whispered something in a language only she knew. When she turned back, her eyes were wet, but her voice was. I won't let them take him, Clay. He's Ridge blood, but he's Clara's first. And she ain't here to fight. He stepped forward, something wild and old clawing up his throat. You don't get to decide this on your own. Mercy looked up at him. Then shoot me now. He couldn't. Instead, he brought out the rifle from under the floorboards, the one with the scratch down the barrel and the carved initials from a brother long buried. He laid it on the table. You're not going alone. She blinked. They'll hang you too. They can try. At dawn, they rode, Mercy on the sorrel mare she'd brushed until its coat shone like brass. Clayton beside her, silent, armed, his face cut with shadow. They left the child with Ruthie, the cook, who hadn't spoken more than 20 words since her son was shot during a border raid 5 years back. But she held Sila's like he was her own. The town of Nolan wasn't much, one saloon, 2 streets, and a courthouse that looked more barn than law, but it had gallows waiting. Fresh rope hung loose like an open mouth. Sheriff Tolliver stood outside the jail when they arrived. Dust swirled around his boots. Clayton dismounted first. Mercy slid down slow. She didn't touch him for strength, didn't need to. You came, the sheriff said. I always pay what's owed, she answered. Doesn't have to end with blood, Tolliver said. Then drop the charges. He hesitated. That man was no innocent, Clayton said. He laid hands. There's 2 women in Nolan who'll testify to it. One with a broken rib. You want justice or just the rope? Tolliver's face twitched. It's the judge now. He's coming tomorrow, but I'll talk to him, if what you're saying's true. It is, Mercy said, but if it ain't enough, I'll face it. I ain't afraid of swinging. Clayton's hand gripped the rifle's strap tighter. Stay the night, the sheriff said. Don't go far. They lodged above the old mercantile, a room with warped floors and curtains stained with sun. Mercy sat by the window all night, watching the square. She didn't speak. Clayton slept in the chair beside the door, rifle across his lap. In the gray hour before morning, a bottle shattered below. Voices rose. Tolliver came to them just after sunbreak, hat in hand, face hard. You were right, he said. Woman came forward, said the dead man beat her bloody for years. Judge dropped the charge, said it was self-defense. Mercy didn't cry, just exhaled long like she'd been holding her breath for a lifetime. But the sheriff wasn't finished. Judge wants to see you anyway, wants to know why you didn't come sooner. Why you ran?" Mercy looked at him, tired beyond her years. "Because nobody listens to girls like me, not till someone's dead." Tolliver had no answer. They rode back that afternoon, sun high and merciless. Mercy didn't speak until they saw the Ridge Hollow gates. Then she asked, "You gonna keep us?" Clayton turned to her. "I already have." When they reached the house, Silas reached for her with both hands. She held him close, and for the first time since arriving, she wept. Not loud, just enough. And the wind carried that sound across the hills, through the dying fields, where nothing had bloomed in years. Winter crept in without snow, just frost that cracked the cattle troughs and curled the last of the corn husks into brittle ghosts. The hollow quieted, birds vanished, the ground hardened under boot. Mercy changed with the season. She no longer asked permission. She rode the south fence line alone, rifle slung across her back, a bundle strapped in front to keep Silas near her heart. She fixed her own saddle cinch. She doctored the colicky yearling herself when the ranch vet couldn't be found. The hands stopped staring. They started listening. Clayton watched all this from a distance. He'd grown used to silence in the house, the kind that once filled his ears like water in a drowning. Now the quiet was different. It breathed. She taken the old maid's quarters and made them into something that looked like home. Her mother's shawl hung above the crib now. A cracked ceramic dish held wildflowers when they could be found. There was a rhythm to the way she swept the porch, to how she sang to the boy when no one was listening. Not love songs. Lullabies for survivors. One night after branding season, Mercy stood barefoot in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, arms red to the elbow from scrubbing iron pots. "You want him baptized?" she asked. Clayton looked up from his ledger. "You religious?" "No," she said, "but Clara was." He considered that. "If it means something to you, we'll ride into Sutterville Sunday." "He needs a name that means more than what the world will give him." "He's got one. He needs it spoken." So on Sunday, they dressed in the only church-appropriate clothes they had. Mercy in a gray cotton dress patched at the elbows, Clayton in a black coat that still smelled of saddle oil. Silas wore a shirt too big for him and a blue ribbon Mercy had sewn herself. The preacher said the words. Mercy held him steady. Clayton watched with his hat in his hands. After the service, a woman with silver pins in her hair approached Mercy. She was the wife of a cattle broker, polite, educated, dangerous. "I remember Clara," the woman said, lips thin. "She worked in town for a while." Mercy straightened. "She was my sister." "Yes, I heard. That boy looks just like her. So glad he's being raised right. No one wants to see another child lost to bad beginnings." Mercy didn't smile. "There's no such thing as a bad beginning. Only cruel endings." The woman blinked, then walked away. Back at the ranch, Mercy didn't speak until the boy was asleep and the dishes were stacked. "She meant to shame me," she said. "She failed. I won't let him grow up beneath their pity. I won't let him be half a thing." Clayton stood by the fire. He poured himself a drink untouched. "Then raise him whole. I can't do it alone." "You're not." They didn't touch, but something passed between them, like a hand pressed to glass. Weeks passed, snow fell once, then melted. A letter arrived from Belle in Sutterville. One of the girls who had known Clara wanted to visit the grave. Mercy rode out with her, brought back stories Silas would never remember but must never forget. Clayton fixed the roof on the smokehouse that spring. Mercy built a pen for chickens. The boy took his first steps beside the barn, then came the telegram. Clayton read it on the porch, jaw locked, eyes distant. Mercy came from the garden, dirt under her nails, a basket of onions in her arms. "What is it?" He handed her the slip. Jameson Ridge released from Yuma Territorial Prison, due north, 3 weeks out. Mercy's mouth went dry. Your brother. Clayton nodded. I thought he was dead. He was, then he was. Why was he in Yuma? Clayton's eyes were black glass. Murder. And he's coming here. Always said he'd finish what he started. Mercy looked toward the hills. We need to prepare. Clayton didn't argue. That night they boarded the windows, buried coins, loaded every weapon in the house. Mercy taught the boy to crawl quiet, to hide under the floorboards if the bell rang twice. Jameson Ridge had ridden into towns with fire in his hands, left behind silence and ash, and he was coming home. Jameson came with the dust. 3 weeks to the day after the telegram, a rider was seen on the ridge, lone figure, black horse, wide brim hat that shadowed the face. He didn't stop in Sutterville, didn't send word ahead, just rode straight into Ridge Hollow like the land still owed him something. Clayton was on the porch when the hooves cracked gravel, rifle in hand but not raised. Mercy stepped out behind him. Sila's was hidden. Ruthie had taken him to the cellar with a pistol and 2 jars of water. The house was still. The yard was colder than the hour allowed. Jameson didn't dismount right away. He sat there staring, eyes like tar pits, no light, no bottom. Well, he said at last, voice coarse with years behind bars, you're still standing. Clayton didn't flinch. You were supposed to rot. Jameson smiled, teeth yellow with neglect. Turns out hell kicks some of us back. Mercy came down the steps slow. Her eyes didn't leave him. You coming here for blood or talk? Jameson looked at her, head tilted. And who might you be? I'm the mother of the child who'll bury your name. That made Jameson laugh. Ugly sound, rusted iron on bone. She's got teeth, he said to Clayton. You always liked the ones with fire. Clayton stepped forward. What do you want? A reckoning. For what? For the lies, the land, for killing father, for letting me take the fall. You stabbed him in the gut with your own blade. He deserved it, you know it. And I testified. Jameson's horse pawed the dirt. You always were the clean one, sharp boots, clean hands. You had mother's name, I had his fists, and now you've got the hollow. You're not getting it back. Jameson dismounted. He dropped the reins, let the horse wander. Mercy drew her revolver. Jameson didn't reach for a weapon, just paced slow toward the porch, hands loose at his sides. I ain't here to shoot first, he said. I want a meal, a roof, one night. You get nothing here, Clayton said. Jameson's gaze landed on Mercy again. You letting him raise that boy? She raised the gun higher. You take one more step, and I'll show you what Clara taught me before she died. That name stopped him. Clara, he repeated. You knew Clara. She was my sister. He blinked, and the child. Clayton stepped beside her. He's mine, which makes him nothing to you. Jameson's jaw ticked. I don't want the child. Good, Mercy said. Because you'll never see him. Jameson raised his hands, mock surrender. Fine, I'll sleep in the barn, gone by dawn. Mercy looked to Clayton. He shook his head once. Not under my sky. Then shoot me now, Jameson said. Or I walk inside. Clayton didn't shoot. He lowered the rifle. You sleep in the bunkhouse. Under lock. You step out, Ruthie'll shoot you through the window. She's got good aim. Jameson grinned. Fair. They walked him to the small shack used for sick calves and surplus hands, locked him in. No fire, no water, just a wool blanket and the weight of his own sins. That night, Mercy didn't sleep. She sat with Silas in her lap, rocking slow, eyes on the dark outside the window. "He won't leave," she whispered. "He's not done." Clayton stood near the hearth, revolver holstered, knife on the table. "He never is." "What happened between you two?" Clayton's voice was rough. "He killed our father. I held the wound while he ran. Our mother lied to the sheriff, said it was thieves. I told the truth." Mercy blinked. "You sent your brother to prison. I gave him what he earned. And he came back for revenge. He always said Ridge Hollow was his birthright. I earned it. He wanted it handed." Silas stirred in her arms. She stroked his hair. "You think he'll try again?" Clayton's hand moved toward the knife. "He already has." At dawn, the lock was shattered, the bunkhouse empty, the horse still tied. A trail of blood led north into the canyon. And Mercy, standing at the edge of the porch, knew without asking. Ruthie never came back from the cellar. They found Ruthie behind the smokehouse, throat slit clean, eyes wide to the sky like she'd seen something holy just before the end. No struggle, no scream, just the blood-dark grass and one muddy boot print facing west. Silas was gone. Mercy didn't cry. She stood over Ruthie's body for a full minute, jaw locked, hands shaking. Then she turned to Clayton, voice low. "We ride." He didn't ask where, he knew. Jameson had always favored the old Apache trails that twisted through the canyons. He could live off cactus and bird bones for weeks, but he wouldn't hide. Not yet, not until he made them bleed. They packed light. 2 rifles, 3 canteens, Mercy's knife, Clayton's revolver. A single scrap of flannel from the crib, torn, dirty, but enough to know Silas had screamed. They rode west by torchlight, the land flattening into silence. Coyotes howled but stayed clear. Mercy rode with her body forward low, eyes hard as dried blood. By nightfall they found the fire pit, still warm, ash curling. The mark of a boot stomped deep in the dirt, Silas's sock, half burned near the edge. Mercy picked it up like it might still hold heat. Her mouth didn't move, but her eyes glowed with something too dark for prayer. "He wants us to follow," she said. Clayton nodded. "Then we will." By dawn, the canyon narrowed. Walls rose on either side, red and jagged. The old trails ran thin here, easy to ambush. Mercy dismounted, crouched beside the track, studied the dirt like scripture. "He's dragging something," she murmured. "Or someone," Clayton said. They left the horses tethered under scrub pine and moved in on foot. The wind shifted. The air smelled like salt and rot. Mercy spotted the first trap, a noose laid loose across a hollow. Meant for ankles, meant for her. She stepped over it. Ahead, a narrow ledge bent right. No cover. One way in. She looked at Clayton. "He's watching. Let him." They walked slow, weapons raised. At the curve, Mercy paused. Something flickered just beyond. A cry sharp and high, like a wounded animal, Silas. She ran before Clayton could stop her. The canyon opened into a bowl of stone, a burned-out campsite, a single blanket, and standing in the center, holding Silas by one arm, was Jameson Ridge. His beard was longer now, streaked in gray. His other hand held a knife, thin and rusted but sharp enough to kill. "Put him down," Mercy said, leveling the rifle. Jameson grinned. "He's quiet, took after his mother, I reckon." "Put him down." "You know," Jameson said, shifting the boy to his hip, "I almost left him. But then I saw your face, and I knew this boy's got power, blood thick as tar, Ridge blood, he ain't yours to raise." "He's not yours to hold." Clayton came out from behind, gun drawn. "Let him go, Jameson." Jameson didn't flinch. "You want to kill me so bad, brother, here's your shot." Clayton aimed, hands steady, years of training in the war, but his breath caught because he wasn't just aiming at a killer now. He was aiming at what was left of the boy who used to braid horsehair and sleep with wolves. "Do it," Jameson hissed. "You let me rot. 15 years, do it." Mercy stepped forward slow, gun still raised. "He's just a boy. Let him go, and I'll make it quick." Jameson laughed. "You think you scare me." "I don't need to scare you," she said. "I just need to be faster." She fired once, not to kill, to wound. The bullet tore through Jameson's thigh. He screamed. "Drop the boy." Mercy caught Silas before he hit stone, rolled, cradled him close. He wailed, but he was breathing, alive. Jameson fell to his knees, blood pouring, still clutching the knife, but Clayton was already there. Kicked the blade aside, pressed the barrel to his brother's temple. Jameson didn't beg, he smiled. "I always knew you, end it." Clayton didn't speak, he pulled the trigger. The canyon echoed like thunder in a hollow drum. Mercy didn't look up. She held Silas tighter, kissed the top of his head, whispered the lullaby Clara used to sing when the world got too loud. Later, they buried Jameson in the canyon, no marker, just a pile of stones and silence. They rode home with the boy between them, pressed against Mercy's back, head tucked beneath her braid. At Ridge Hollow, the air smelled of wood smoke and spring. Mercy planted wildflowers by Ruthie's grave. Clayton fixed the hinges on the door. And Silas, who'd been taken, who'd been held, who'd seen the black mouth of cruelty, laughed for the first time in weeks. Just once. But it was enough. In time, Mercy would teach him to shoot. In time, he'd ask about the man in the canyon. And when he did, she'd tell him. That man thought he owned your name, but names don't come from blood, they come from who raises you. Silas Ridge grew up with that lesson carved in bone, and no one ever dared take him again.